Jalen Hurts is good, really good. I had to make sure I was reading correctly when I discovered the news that the Philadelphia Eagles were one fatal trade away from destroying their current arc, which looks to be trending into dynastic form. Now, hindsight being 2020, it's easy to say that the Philadelphia Eagles want absolutely nothing to do with Russell Wilson, stemming from the fact that Jalen Hurts went out and firmly solidified his spot as the franchise's quarterback in 2022. Not to mention, Jalen Hurts just signed a 5-year deal worth up to $255 million. So why does this matter? Well, to understand just how differently things could have been, we have to understand both sides of the spectrum. And to do that, let's start by going back to the 2021 NFL offseason. At this point in time, despite coming off Russell Wilson's worst season since his rookie year, the talk around the league remained that if a team were to get hands on Russell Wilson, that they would be bringing in an elite franchise quarterback who would put them into Super Bowl contention.
We're talking about of bringing a Super Bowl champion from Seattle and Russell Wilson.
Elite franchise quarterbacks and trade packages are rarely something we see in the same sentence. Usually. The viral gifts of Broncos country, let's ride, and Russ burning down the kitchen weren't even a thing at this point because Russ truly was cooking. Take a look at his Hall of Fame resume. Now for the Eagles, while I wouldn't say quarterback was in extremely dire need, the truth of the matter is that Jalen Hurts had only started for one full year to this point. However, he showed multiple flashes and led this team to the playoffs, which isn't a small feat for a young quarterback. So it's kind of unfair to evaluate his career arc based on such a small sample size, but again, if you had to bet on Jalen Hurts becoming a franchise quarterback versus a future Hall of Fame quarterback, I can see what you're seeing. Now, this is where things get too spicy to handle. Knowing what we know now, Russell Wilson turned down the trade which would have sent him to the Eagles. And knowing my Eagles fans, I don't think Russell's personality would have boded well in Philly.
I was doing treatment on the plane. I was walking up and down the aisles. Everybody was knocked out. I was doing high knees and working on my legs and everything else, making sure I'm ready to rock.
But let's talk about the package that Denver would acquire him for. These are the trade details. The Broncos get quarterback Russell Wilson, 2022 fourth-round pick. The Seahawks get quarterback Drew Lock, defensive tackle Shelby Harris, tight end Noah Fant, and a 2022 first, second, and fifth-round pick. In 2023, they get a first and second-round pick. So these are a lot of picks for Russell Wilson. So based off this trade in which the Broncos packaged, how would a hypothetical Eagles trade have looked? And right here we have it. As we can see, the picks remain the same in the deal. And the hypothetical players in which I selected are quarterback Jalen Hurts, defensive tackle Marlon Tuipulotu, and tight end Jack Stahl. Now, if this trade really happens, does everybody understand what this would have done? Let's take a look. To begin, the Seahawks would have never gotten some of their young draft picks, but most notably, the Seahawks would have never gotten left tackle Charles Cross or star draft prospect Devon Witherspoon. Yikes. The Broncos would have never brought Sean Payton out of retirement, but they would have avoided Russ burning down the kitchen equipment. And this is all while being able to get franchise cornerstones with 2022's ninth pick and possibly a quarterback in the 2023 draft like, I don't know, Anthony Richardson. But this is where true disaster was avoided. If Russell Wilson accepts this trade, not only would the Eagles have missed out on the Super Bowl due to Russ's poor play, Philly has a great roster. Yeah, so does Denver. Philly never gets to see Jalen Hurts go on his MVP candidate run, and he potentially misses out on his big payday. The Eagles lose one of their 3 first-round picks and their additional draft capital, which allowed them to move up from 15 to 13 and get a Jordan Davis. So who would the Eagles have drafted? Traylon Burks, Kenyon Green? And it seems like no big deal that they miss out on a trade with the Saints until we fast forward to now. After dealing with multiple injuries amongst other unfortunate situations, the New Orleans Saints posted a 7-10 record and gifted the Philadelphia Eagles the 10th overall pick in the draft. Eagles fans, you know what's next. And you know what that would have meant? No Jalen Carter. Potentially the best defensive player who will come from this draft would not have been there. No Jalen Hurts, no Jordan Davis, maybe A.J. Brown, and no Jalen Carter. This is the epitome of a true nightmare story, and it almost happened.